two, one, and we're recording live. Okay. So, tonight we're going to talk a little bit about what makes a successful online dating relationship, and I think just relationships in general, because
Mhm.
relationships span more than just online, right? Relationships, and it doesn't make a difference if you met someone organically, someone, set you up on a blind date, you met them online. A relationship is a relationship. How you met the person is just one small part of it. So,
Right.
what is a successful relationship? So, I'll ask you first, ladies first, what makes a successful relationship? What do you think makes a successful relationship, Miss Duhart?
Um, well, personally, I feel like if you're able to still sustain the relationship after,
Mm-hmm.
whether you decide to continue to be friends, or if you decide to pursue, something romantically, I think that's what makes the relationship or just the dating aspect of it successful. Because if you're able to get a really good friend out of it, I think that that's a success. What are your thoughts?
Mm-hmm. Um, I would agree. I mean, I think that you sometimes have to look at when when I go online. My first thought is not necessarily. I mean, of course, I think we all would, in a perfect world, would want a relationship where the person is your forever person. Let's keep it real. But
Mhm.
that's just not reality. There are things that come up along the
Exactly.
way that, will make you be like, no, this is not going to work. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
I found, after I was dating someone for a while, I found out that they was a smoker. I don't date smokers. So that was, after the fact that we had been kind of seeing each other for a couple of months. Right. So sometimes along the way, you find out things that, kind of halts the relationship, right? But for me, every
Right.
time I go into a relationship, I always kind of look at it, understanding that the potential of it just being nothing more than friendship exists, right? So I could
Hmm.
tell you that I've probably met about five women online that nothing romantic is just friendship. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like one of the women I'm strongly considering making a godmother for one of my kids, because
Oh, wow.
she's just cool like that. She'll call me and she'll say,
Hmm.
"Hey, do the kids need anything?" You know what I mean? Like, she's just so cool, and I mean, there's no relationship, but
Right.
her heart is like, "Yo, I understand. You're a single father raising two boys. Yo, if I can help in any
Hmm.
way." Like last year, not this year, last year, my son had to, he participates in like AAU basketball. And I could
Hmm.
just tell you the expenses were like easy
Yeah.
2,500 bucks for the
Yeah.
season. That's,
Yeah.
uniforms, traveling, all that kind of stuff. And she was like, yo, here's 500 bucks, you know? And I was like,
Wow.
yeah,
That's a really good friend,
exactly. I'm like, whoa. And
especially
considering,
coming from a woman. That's a lot.
right, and that's what I'm saying, and considering, we ain't involved in no relationship or nothing like that. You know what I mean? I'm like,
Hmm.
yo, that hit home. That was like, okay, I
That's
appreciate it.
significant. Yeah. Hmm.
So I mean, we have to, sometimes understand that, sometimes you're gonna meet people that just end up being friends because for a variety of different reasons. You know what I mean? It can be
Yeah.
scheduling, right? Like a couple of women that I've met, our schedules just prevent. And even though, I mean, I think I consider myself a pretty decent guy, and a couple of the women that I've met were some pretty decent women, but our
Yeah.
schedules just don't align. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
they have kids, they have, demanding jobs. So things like that sometimes
Hmm.
prevent you from maybe having a romantic relationship, but nevertheless, you can be friends.
Yeah,
Mhm.
no, I totally agree with that. But I think sometimes, at least I know for me, when you see people do grand gestures like that, especially here in your situation where the woman gave you like $500, sometimes I always have in the back of my mind that maybe they are kind of just buying their time and they're looking for a little bit more. So I'll give you an example. And we talked about this on the show before about a guy that I was friends with. And, we were
Hmm.
initially attracted to each other, but he took off of work a couple of days just to help me take my kids to school. But then he was
Hmm.
like trying to move into my house. So it was like, so
That's funny.
So yeah, it's like, okay, did you have a hidden agenda because you were trying to be my friend? So I feel
Hmm.
like sometimes people know, okay, maybe if I do these grand gestures, it'll change your mind towards me. So I'm also a little skeptical about stuff like that. What are your thoughts?
Um, well, I mean, let's be real. I mean, in most cases, when people do grand gestures, they're usually doing it to win you over in some way. I mean, it's not like they're not. I
Exactly,
mean,
exactly.
you know that it definitely has an impact. Because I'll give you an example. One time, there was this woman that I met online, and
Uh-huh.
so it was a Friday. My sons were home because they were doing remote learning from school, and
Okay.
so she called me. She's like, "Hey, are you home?" I was like, "Yeah, I was working from home that particular day." And so she, she had asked me, my address. So I told her my address because she told me she
Oh.
was trying to gauge the distance between, I don't know, the airport and my house or something like that. I don't know, she told me something bogus. But anyway, um, about an hour or two later, she says, open up your front door. And I opened up my front door. I had lunch in the front door. She had sent Papa John's, two pizzas, Papa John pizzas, wings, breadsticks, a whole bunch of stuff for me and my boys. And I was like, oh, okay. And I just thought that was an amazing gesture. And so, yeah, let me ask you, if someone does a grand gesture, that doesn't put them on on a different level from folks who don't do stuff like that. I mean, I think you
See,
would
I'm a skeptic.
agree the guy that takes your kids to school has a different place in your heart than the guy that don't.
Listen, I'm a skeptic, Craig. I mean, when you go a little too above and beyond, it makes me a little nervous, if I'm being honest. So
Mhm,
I think the whole idea of sending food to the house is great. Now, to be
mhm,
honest with you, I've only done that to
mhm,
a boyfriend. Like when I knew his daughter was home with him and he was working from
mhm,
home, I sent him lunch to the house. Like, hey, I know you're working from home today and your daughter's there with you. Let me just take care of. Let me take this off your plate, or
yeah.
something like that. But I don't know. If it's somebody, well, I guess if it's just a friend, I've done that too, sent them food. But I still feel like I would be a little skeptical. Like, why are they trying to do this? If it's to food, I don't think it's a huge grand gesture. But I mean, like showing up at my house and taking off from work and taking my kids to school at 6 o'clock in the morning, that's
Mhm,
huge. But then it came down to, well, do you want me to just stay and pick them up from school? And
mhm. Right.
then that was going a little bit too far. But
Right.
so
No,
what do you
no.
consider like I think $500 is a grand gesture, but what do you consider as a grand gesture?
Let me tell you. Um, One woman offered to send my son a PlayStation 5, right? Because it was
That's
so
doing the
funny.
most. Because I
Because
feel
we
like
had.
now you're trying to buy. I feel like now you're disingenuine and you're just trying to buy the relationship.
Well, once again, I don't think because $500 is not going to buy you a relationship. You know what I mean? So, but once again, it's to separate you from other folks. When think about it, when a guy,
No, yes, especially right now, $500 can buy you a relationship. I mean, let's
no,
not shortchange it.
$500 is
And
not going to buy you a
yes,
relationship. I like.
yes, it
Matter
can.
of fact, let me just tell you something. Right? I met a young lady
Oh, I'm
online.
sorry, because you're Mr. Big Bucks over there, so $500 isn't going to buy your relationship.
No, no, because $500 doesn't go a long way. You see what I'm saying? Like five
But if
hundred
you're
bucks.
dropping $500 for just a PlayStation, like, do you know what I could be doing with that $500 other than buying a
I mean,
PlayStation?
listen, the woman had money. So, I mean, but listen, I can't be bought and sold. You know what I mean? So she could do something
Well,
like
you
that.
can't,
And I
but some
told her,
people probably can.
but I told her no. You know what I mean? I was like, no, no, no.
Yeah,
But, she bought me like a couple of watches. You know what I mean? And I enjoyed
I think that's
hanging
too
out with
much.
her. But the problem was, you know, she wanted to get married like yesterday, right?
Yeah.
And I think she thought material things would sway me, and
Yeah,
material
I think
things
that's way
don't
too
sway
much.
me, you know.
I think
And
that
just
there's other gestures that you can do that are less expensive, that'll still show that your interest and separate you from the pack, as you like to say.
yeah, I mean, like I'll give you another, like one gesture that was the sweetest gesture, and it wasn't the most expensive thing in the world. A young lady bought me a T-shirt, right,
Hmm.
for Christmas, and you know, I'm a big Thor fan, right? You know, because I have a tattoo of Thor on my arm, right? And
Men get their
the,
tattoos of their superheroes.
I had this way before they had Marvel movies, and the reason why I have the tattoo is because Thor is the most noble of the superheroes, and I consider myself to be noble. That's why I have the tattoo. But nevertheless, the young lady
My
bought me a
goodness.
T-shirt with Thor's hammer on the front of it, and it was handmade. It was painted, you know, by a painter, you know, like airbrushed, you know, on a T-shirt. And I just thought that
Hmm.
was the most, like the sweetest thing. Like I treasure that T-shirt. You know what I mean? Like, you know, every time I work out, I put it on. You know what I mean? And when you do stuff like that, and even if you're no longer with the person, you remember who gave you that T-shirt. You know what I mean? Like you remember gestures. Gestures go a long way, right? And just a
Yeah, I
reminder.
think personalized gifts, absolutely. Like, for instance, when I was dating this guy, the first time we actually went out, I did bring a gift to the date, and
Mhm.
he had a beard. So my aunt makes homemade products. So I had my aunt make him a beard oil that had like scents that I knew that he likes because he was obsessed with Bath and Body Works.
Mhm.
So I had my aunt put, certain kind of like eucalyptus oils and lavenders and things of that nature, lemongrass in
Mhm.
it. And I put together a whole kit for him: shampoo, conditioner, beard oil, brush, comb, whatever. And
Mhm.
and he was like floored. He thought that that was amazing that somebody had handmade, soaps and things made for his beard. I
Right.
think that's a nice gesture, but
Mhm.
offering $500 for a PlayStation for your kid, I feel like that's going above and beyond. Like they're just trying to
Well,
buy
I mean,
the
she didn't.
affection of your
She didn't
children.
offer me. Well, let me get it correctly. She didn't offer me $500. What she said was, she sent me her Amazon and said, you know, click on the PlayStation and it would, you know, be paid by her account, I guess, or whatever. But I was like, no, that's just, you know, too much in such a short period of
Way too
time,
much.
you know.
Way too
And just
much.
for those folks watching on um, TikTok and those folks watching on YouTube, don't forget to pick up the book, The Good, the Bad, and the Art of Online Dating. And these things that we're talking about are actually in the book. It's $15
Mhm.
if you cash at me, and I'll sign it. Or you can go to lulu.com and the book is available there. That there it's 17.95 plus you have to pay for shipping. So it's up to you. But nevertheless, and please like, subscribe, follow, you know, all that kind of stuff. You already know all of that stuff, so by all means do so. But anyway, we're talking about, you know, what makes a successful relationship, right? So for me, I think an earmark of a good relationship is communication. So one of the things that I do just to kind of see if the relationship has the potential to be successful
Mhm.
is sometimes I'll just be quiet and I'll just listen to how the person is able to communicate, right? Like, how are we talking? Because what happens is, um, if the communication doesn't flow, right, then, you know, you have that dead silence, right, where you're like, you know, because listen, I talk, good evening, right? I talk for a living. I think I could probably talk about any topic. I could generate conversation about the weather, about the news, about projects, a bunch of different things, right? So sometimes you just have to sit back and see how's the person able to create conversation. You know, do they have topics that are interesting, right? Are they not? Are they only talking about their job? Are they only talking about their kids? or they only talking about their mama, or they only talking about their papa, or they only talking about their
Mm.
dog. Like you have to have conversations about other things, right? Like there was this one time I did a meet and greet where I met with this woman, and all she talked about was her grandchild. And no disrespect to her grandchild, but I ain't come here to talk about your grandchild, you know. And
Was
I'm a
she nervous? I mean, maybe she was just nervous.
no, she just loved her grandchild. That's all. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, but all she
Yeah.
could talk about was her grandchild. And to be honest with you, I was like I could see, hanging out with her, and every time it would just be a conversation about her grandchild, and I'm
Well,
like,
and that might not necessarily be true. It could have just been something on her heart that day. But I think when it comes also down to dating, what makes a successful relationship is if you grow while you're with the person. You
mm-hmm,
know, if we're just stagnant and we're still the same people during the time that we're dating, I wouldn't consider that a successful relationship. Or if I've been able to learn something from the relationship, I feel like that was a success, regardless if we are still in contact going forward or not. But I will say the
mm-hmm,
majority of the men that I have dated from online, I still have contact with. We're
mm-hmm,
still very amicable to each other. Now, a couple of them that have become stalkers, yeah, no, that was definitely not a successful
mm-hmm.
a
Yeah, I mean,
successful relationship.
I think that it's a funny thing because after a while, if a relationship, and I'm just talking about in the early stages of conversation, if the relationships doesn't start to evolve, then at some point you've got to put the person in the friend zone, right? Because
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
not evolving. You know what I mean? There's but so because listen, there comes a point where you have to transcend the phone. You know what I mean? Like if you're
Absolutely.
talking on the phone all the time and that's all it's really doing, then it's not evolving. So at some point you gotta be like, you know what? Maybe you're best suited just to be a friend. Right. And maybe there's not a relationship then. I mean, I'm talking about a romantic relationship because there are different relationships. Obviously, there's
Right.
friendship relationships, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? There's business relationships, and then there's romantic
Right.
relationships, right? And
Yeah.
so, like you and I, we have like a business relationship, and we met online
I
and,
thought we
we
were
would just,
friends.
but yeah, we're
That was
friends.
mean.
But this is a business relationship. But I'm saying like it's transcended,
Whatever.
because we're cool, Like I plan to be in like the second row at your wedding, so I can, videotape it for the show and be like, that's the guy you met him online, right?
No.
No, how'd you meet him?
I met him through a mutual friend, but dating online, I will say, was successful because it made me see
Hmm.
how much I loved him.
Hmm. Cool.
It was like I had this person in front of my face the whole time.
Hmm. Okay. All right. All right.
No, but I mean, and we've talked about this before, how women have their top five,
Hmm.
their roster.
Hmm.
So if you can make it into the top five into that roster, then
Hmm.
I think that that's a success. You know, you're gonna go into
Mm.
one of those five categories.
It's funny you mentioned rosters, because I was listening to TikTok last
Uh
week,
huh.
and another woman referred to having a roster, right?
Mhm.
And before
Mhm.
you mentioned it, I don't think I had ever heard a woman say she had a roster, or at least acknowledged it. Because I mean, listen, I'm sure women have had rosters since Cleopatra's time. You know what I'm saying? But I think they
Not
were
Cleopatra.
usually a little on, kept it on the low. But now women have gotten
Okay.
bold. They're like, yo, my roster, I got 3 men on the roster, this and that. And I'm like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? And guys, you know, um, at least I think rosters have to do with the stage that you're at in your life. Like me, I don't have a roster. I would much prefer to have, one woman because I hope that the next relationship that I get in is my last relationship, right? But if you're
Yeah.
much like you're in your 30s, I'm not gonna lie. I had a roster of maybe two or three, that I was talking to.
No, that's a
Uh,
black book. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, as you're actively dating,
uh-huh.
as you're actively dating, you categorize men. I mean, a woman knows
Hmm.
very, very early on if she's going to be sexual with this person, if she's going to be intimate, if he's
Hmm.
just going to be a friend, if he has the potential to be a marriage partner,
Hmm.
or if he's just a potential for, hey, I just want to hang out and date you or, do other things with you. So we know very, very quickly where we're going to put you.
Hmm.
And that's what I mean by roster. I don't mean like I'm going through, five
So
different men and I'm dating them at the same time. I mean where I'm categorizing you in my life.
okay, but how do you determine? I mean, because explain this to me. All right. Um, because what happens? You put a guy at on the roster, and he's like second, right? You really like the dude, and then you have sex with him, and it's whack. Does he fall off the roster, or is he still in the roster?
He could go into the friend zone.
Okay,
I
exactly.
mean, if it all depends. If he's a really nice guy, then he can
Okay.
go into the friend zone.
Okay.
As long as we make it clear, we're not having sex anymore.
Okay.
But
So.
if it was just like I never even want you around me anymore, like
Mhm.
blah, then yeah, you fall off the roster very quickly.
Got you. Okay. I get it. I
But
kind of
it's not,
think.
we don't rank it like, oh, he's number one in my book, he's number two in my book. At least not for me. I rank
Mhm.
them like, okay, he definitely has potential. He goes into the potential
Mhm.
category.
So when you say
Or, oh,
potential, let
that's
me
my man.
be clear on the potential. Are we talking about potential for marriage? Is that what you're looking for, or
Well,
potential
it all
for a
depends on
boyfriend?
what your ultimate goal is. It's either the potential to, he has potential to be a marriage mate, or he has
Hmm.
potential to be a boyfriend, or he has potential to be a serious commitment, because that's
Hmm.
how I look. Because especially when you meet somebody, we're all in like this raw stasis, and
Hmm.
we need to be compatible with a person. You're always looking for that person that you can complete. So sometimes they might not show all of those qualities up front. You need time to
Hmm.
determine if the two of you are compatible and you can complete each other. And
Hmm.
so, that will determine where they are in that roster during different times. And I don't think that, if you dated somebody that you should no longer keep a relationship with them, I don't think that that's fair, especially if you've had time to get to know their children or their
Hmm.
family. I think it's cool to be able to keep them in a friend zone or just keep some kind of
Hmm.
relationship with them.
Yeah, and listen, once again, like I said, I know a handful of women that I'm really, really cool with that I met online, and like I said, it's good to have. Like I have one friend that, in the morning, like sometimes when I'm driving, I know she's driving to work around the same time I am at 7 a.m. So I'll call her like, hey, what's up?
Right.
And, she doesn't live locally, she lives far away, but I know she's driving. And so we'll talk on the phone for like a half an hour, just kind of catch up. And, she'll tell me about her daughter and I'll tell her about the boys and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's cool to have. And then, I mean, I've learned that I don't really discuss one woman with another woman. I've learned that's a no-no, right? I don't do that. Because there was a time that when I was dating 20, 30 years ago, I would have a female friend and be able to talk to her about another female. That's a no-no. So for the guys watching the show, don't do that. It can only be negative, and
I
it will only come
don't
back
know
to
about that.
don't
I kind of
do it.
have a different perspective on that.
Don't do it. Trust me when
I
I tell
told,
you.
like, if I'm not exclusive with you yet, okay, I don't mind talking to you about other women that you're interested in. That doesn't bother me at all. And I have a lot of guys that, like, while we were dating, that's we bonded over that. Different people that we were talking to. Like, I had this one guy I was dating, and I mean, oh my God, everything about this man was amazing. Like, he was definitely in my not
Mm-hmm.
even potential category. He was definitely
Hmm.
okay. I want to marry this man before my fiance. And there were times, before we were exclusive, we never got completely exclusive because our lives just couldn't get
Hmm.
there. But there were times when I was having a bad night on a date, and I'd be like, "What you doing?" He's like, "Nothing, just got in bed." I'm like, "I'm coming over."
Hmm.
And I would tell him about my date, and he would just like pour me a shot of Crayon, and we would just sit there, and we would just catch up on how my date went. Like I think that
Hmm.
was great, and we still would go out. We were still dating. We were still
Uh-huh.
interested in each other. We still said I love you and all that stuff.
Hmm.
But we weren't exclusive.
Wait a minute. He was saying I love you and you just left a date?
Huh? Say that again.
You just said he was saying I love you and you left a date to go get in bed with him. I'm sorry, there's something
I
wrong
didn't
with
say.
this.
I did not say. You assumed that I said I got in bed with him.
No, that's what you
I
said. You said
said I went to
said
his
you got in
apartment.
bed and y'all were talking about your date. I mean, am I wrong here? I mean, the listeners, please, did I hear her wrong?
Listen, Mr. Palmer.
Like what?
Listen. There could be. Listen, Linda. Listen. There are definitely times when we might not have a very successful date, and we might need a little tune up from.
Okay.
See, that's
And
that's
he
a
loves you. He said
category.
he
We have.
loves you. He says he loves you. He loves you, but you just left a
Yeah.
date to get in bed with him.
Shut
Wow.
up.
That's interesting.
I
I
mean,
wonder where is
okay,
he at now?
again,
Please
this,
tell me you're still in contact with him.
what do you mean?
Are you still in contact with him?
Okay, so my fiance, unfortunately not, because my fiance made me shut down my entire roster.
Okay.
So the only person I'm allowed to communicate with is you.
Okay. Got you. Got you. Got you.
He made me shut down. He's like, you don't need no potentials. You don't need no friends. He's like, I'm all the friends you need.
Hilarious. Hilarious.
But okay, no. So listen, this goes back to another conversation that you and I had too, right? When we talked about
Hmm.
the different phases of love. So you can still say I love you to a person that you care a lot about. You might not be
Hmm.
in love with that person romantically, or you
Hmm.
could still be attracted to that person romantically, but you may not
Hmm.
be at the point where you're going to marry that person. You still love
Hmm.
them. I mean, especially
Okay.
if there's somebody that you've been close with for a while. Like this guy, we were close for about 6 months. So yeah, I loved him. I loved his children. I loved our time together. But
But you just
I
didn't want to
wasn't
be with
like
him.
head over heels in love.
Right.
No, 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 no. I said that he was my number one. At the time, he was
Hmm.
definitely in my potential to marry,
Got you.
but he was in the Navy and he wasn't ready to
Hmm.
retire. Well, he was going to retire. He was in the middle of a nasty divorce. So it was just
Hmm.
like, it just wasn't the right time. It was just
Okay.
timing more so. And I'm an impatient person.
I get it.
So,
And like I said, to me, a successful relationship starts with one, the communication. Like, just sit back and see
hmm
sometimes how you communicate, how the conversation flows, right? And then
hmm
two, the attraction, the physical attraction. And at least from a male standpoint, listen, you'll hear me say this. I have it in the book, right? I need to look at you like a two piece in a biscuit. If I don't look at you like a two piece
stop
in a
it.
biscuit, it's not gonna work.
I
Like
love that.
you gotta be a breast and a wing and and a roll, right? I gotta look at you like I'm hungry and I need to feed.
Not breast and a wing. Yeah, Mr.
Yeah,
Palmer.
two piece in a biscuit. If I don't look at you like a two piece in a biscuit, it's not gonna work because from a male standpoint, we have to desire you, right? Like when I look at you, I got to look at you and be like, I want to destroy you, right? I got to look at you like that. If the guy ain't looking at you like that, it's not going to
Mhm.
work because the little gestures, like you're talking about, like those are the gestures, like little. These are and women like this, like stuff like this. This for guys, this is not a big deal. But I'm just saying, like leaving a little card in your car saying, "I'm gonna miss you all day," right? Or putting a little card in your purse saying, telling you later on, hey, look inside your purse. And inside your purse is a card with $20 saying, lunch is on me today. You know what I mean? Like doing things like that. Like if the person is not looking at you like a two piece in a biscuit, he's not going to do all of that kind of stuff. You know? He's just going to be like, hey, how you doing? Like it's just not going to, you're not going to see the type of oh, we lost. Arena briefly, so she'll be back on in a moment. But anyway, so a successful relationship, you've got to listen to the communication. Like, there's nothing more crazier than when I hear women say, they got divorced or they broke up with their boyfriend, and they broke up with the boyfriend because he was a bad communicator, or they got divorced because their husband was a bad communicator, and I'm like, what? Like, how's that? I mean, you married the guy. Like, was he not a good communicator when you married him? And they're like, well, no, he wasn't really that great of a communicator back then, but they decided to marry the person anyway. Like, understand, like, whenever you decide to get with someone, how they are when you get with them is in all likelihood how they're going to be when you're with them. Don't think for a moment
Mhm.
that the person is going to change, right? Like, I'll give you an example. A friend of mine got married, right? And he didn't like the way the woman dressed, but he thought like she dressed nicely when they went out sometimes, but sometimes, she wasn't dressed very sexy, right? And let's just say 70% of the time, 80% of the time she wasn't dressed sexy, right? And then 20% of the time, like if they went out or something like that, she would dress nicely, right? And so he thought that he could convince her to dress a little sexier, right? Because that's what he wanted, because men are visual creatures. And what he found out was he could not change her. She was comfortable wearing what she wore. And even though he, bought her clothes and tried to tell her, hey, listen, can you wear this and that? She didn't want to wear that. And he found himself not being attracted to her because she refused to wear something sexy. So my point to him was, don't think you're going to change someone. If you met her and she wasn't dressed sexy, right? Assume she's going to be like that from now on, right? Because there's some women out there that don't have a fashion sense. I'm sorry, it's true, right? Just like there's guys out there that don't have a fashion sense, right? There are guys out there that, are clueless when it comes to dressing. And so, you know, don't try to change them. Like I hear women say all the time, oh, I could take him shopping and I'll have him buy, wear some clothes and this and that, you know. If he's not doing that stuff before you met him, trying to change him to make him dress a particular way or wear his hair a certain way, it's not going to work. Like I remember one time a woman I was dating, she asked me to grow out my beard, right? And I was like, I don't like wearing a beard, right? And so she's like, well, you wouldn't wear a beard for me? And I'm like, no, I would not, right? Because I'm not going to change who I am to make someone else happy. Now, if I decide to wear a beard just because, and the only way you'll see me with a beard is probably if I go on vacation. I'm going on vacation at the end of the month. If you catch me coming back into Savannah on my vacation, you're probably gonna. That's the only time you'll see me with a beard because I haven't shaved in like 5 or 6 days, and I'm gonna have
Mhm.
a beard. I mean, that's just the reality of it. But other than that, I don't wear a beard. So if someone tries to change me and say, "Hey, you should wear a beard," it's not gonna work. I would have to tell them, "No, I'm not wearing a beard." Right? That's just like I would not tell a woman, why don't you wear braids? Right? And I mean, I like braids, right? I think some women wear them really well, like the Alicia Keys of the world. But would I tell a woman, wear braids? You should wear braids because I find it more attractive. Probably not. I would only suggest, hey, listen, maybe we're going on vacation and you're going to wear braids, and they're like, yeah, I'm going to put on braids. Okay, great. But for me to ask the person to wear braids, no, that's something that they would have to do themselves, right? Because once again, you don't try to change folks. So to me, that's what makes a successful relationship too. Accepting the person for who they are, what they bring to the table, right? If, like, I'll give you an example. There was a woman that I met. She had a 3 year old son, right? And I'm like, 3 years old is entirely too young for me to date someone with a child that young, right? And I could tell you there are guys out there that would date a woman with a 3 year old. I ain't one of them, but there are women out there that would. I mean, there are guys out there that would. They don't care. If a woman is fine and she got a big ass, excuse my language, they'll take a woman with, a 3 year old. I've seen a guy, he married a woman with three young kids, right? I mean, these young kids too, you know what I mean? Like they're all
Hmm.
under like six, right? They were like 2, 3, and 6, right? And I'm like, what? And I mean, the guy,
Oh my God, Craig, you keep triggering me.
I'm just saying, like, what? And I mean, listen, there are guys out there that don't care. Don't get me
I have
wrong.
three children.
Right,
I
that's what
have
I'm saying.
six
I just said there
children
are
and
guys out
two
there that don't care.
grandchildren.
Didn't I just say there are guys out there that don't care?
Listen,
Right?
I need to back up a little bit because I was having this studio kept kicking me out. But I need to back up for a second. First of all, there's a difference between change and growth. I don't
Mhm,
go into a relationship and, look at, oh, how can I change this person? And I feel like that's a problem that a lot of people have. They feel like, oh, I can just change him. No, we're not doing that. Now, if you want to grow with me, that's different. So, like, for
mhm,
example, my fiance was married before. He has a daughter. They were married for 7 years. In his previous relationship, he realized he was not the best communicator, that could have
mhm,
been part of, the breakdown of their marriage. So he decided on his own, before we get married, he wanted to go and get counseling and just
mhm,
see, how, if he had anger management, issues, or if he needed to, work on his communication, because he found out that he's an avoidant communicator. I forget, all the different terms of, what type of person that you can be, so I love that about him. And that's not me changing him. That's not him changing. That's him realizing that he needed to grow, and if he says to me, oh, I like your hair better red, or I like your hair better black, I don't have a problem doing that. If he says, oh,
mhm,
I like your hair better straight, that's not him changing me. If he's, expressing a
mhm.
preference, then I'm fine with that. But I'll also ask him, like, oh, well, what do you think about my hair this color? What do you think about if I wear that? Because you do want to please the person that you're with. But if you
Mhm.
go into the relationship like, oh, Craig, you are sexy as hell, but you would look even better if you had a beard, that's different. Or I'm only going to date you if you grow a beard to me. I'm not doing that. But then there's also some men who come into the relationship and they're like, I'm not the best dresser. I would like that black girl magic to kind of, upgrade me a little bit. And I have no problem. All my men, I take them shopping and I redo their entire wardrobe
Mhm.
seriously. And they want that. They ask me to do that. Like, oh, I need a woman like you in my life. So I don't look at that as me changing them either. I look at that as growth. Like
Well, remember, you're
most
not
people want to be
changing
upgraded.
them.
Most people do want what's better.
But remember, what you just said is they came to you and said they want your assistance in helping them to be better, right? So they're looking for that
Right.
assistance. So they want you to change them in that way. I'm
Exactly.
talking about the guy who already is one way.
Right.
Like, for instance, this one woman told me a story about this guy she liked. She was going to an awards ceremony, and she bought him some shoes, right? Now the guy, all he did was wear sneakers all the time. I don't remember what he did for a living, right? But he was into basically wearing jeans, t-shirts, sneakers all the time, right? And I mean, he went to church occasionally, so he had some slacks, had a shirt, I guess, or what have you. So she told him, "Listen, we're going to an awards ceremony. I want you to be my guest, my plus one, or whatever." He was like, "Okay." She bought him some shoes because he didn't own no shoes, right? And he shows up at the event with sneakers on, right? And so she's like, "Where the shoes?" And he was like, "I didn't feel comfortable with the shoes on, so I wore my sneakers," right? And he looked totally out of place wearing sneakers at a black tie event, right? And so you have to kind of know who you're seeing, right? And once again, accept them for who they are.
Mhm.
If the person is, comfortable with sneakers
Now
and
that part I can definitely agree with, but I also think that that's then don't invite them because I'm not going to change. My thing is, if you are culturally aware, then you know if you're going to a black tie event, you need to wear shoes. I don't care if you're comfortable in it or not. Then decline the invitation to go. If you're really that uncomfortable being there and uncomfortable in the attire that is required, don't go.
hmm well,
I don't feel as though that's changing someone. I mean, there's just certain etiquette when it comes to certain situations.
right. And I mean, but she was trying because she goes to a lot of fundraiser and a lot of events and stuff like that. She was trying
Yeah.
to bring him up a little bit. Put on some shoes, this and that. And he was like, "Yo, I don't wear shoes. I don't like them. I tried them. I put them on. They weren't comfortable. He was more comfortable with sneakers." So once again, my point is, you know, one, don't change someone. Recognize who they are, and like you said, pick someone who is comfortable going to those type of events. Don't try to
Mhm.
say, "Hey, listen, put on some shoes for the sake of coming to this event." Understand that, yo, he ain't down for that, and maybe have a cousin or brother go if you're in really deeply with this
Somebody
dude,
else go with you. Yeah. I mean,
or get another
I think
dude.
it really depends on the person too. Because a person that really, really loves you and is really interested in you will grow for you. You know, like when I was dating my second husband, well, my first two
Was that the
husbands
fourth
were
or the fifth husband?
blue collar.
Was that the fourth or fifth
Shut
husband?
up, Craig. This will be my third one. You be quiet. My second husband is deceased. I am not
Mhm. Vaya
Listen,
con Dios.
Linda.
Peace.
But both of my husbands, shut up. Both of my husbands were blue collar. This particular fiance, he is white collar. So
Mhm,
my second husband really didn't understand that I worked for Merrill Lynch and we did a lot of networking events. You know,
mhm,
so he literally asked me, "What should I wear? You wear a suit, you wear dress shoes. It's after
mhm,
5 o'clock. This is what is expected when you go to a networking event. There's going to be champagne, there's going to be wine, there's going to be, some light
mhm,
cocktails. So you express to them. And then he said, okay, you dress me. And he showed up in what I bought him. I feel as though all of that comes down to conversation too. I mean, if she
mhm.
bought the shoes with the expectation of him wearing them and then he decided not to, then I feel like that was just disrespectful. And that's not a person that you want to be with anyway. Or
Well,
just say, I don't want to show up, I can't
mhm,
make it.
mhm. Well, I mean,
That's not the definition of a successful relationship.
I kind of think, he tried to make her happy in the sense of being her plus one, being her partner, but he didn't want to sacrifice himself, which was being, someone who enjoys wearing sneakers and stuff like that. So he tried to, have the best of both worlds. Like you said, he should have just
Then
bowed
don't
out.
show up because you're not going to embarrass me.
Right, but he didn't think it was in, and this is goes back to, I'm gonna I don't know if it's necessarily common sense, right? But there are folks out there that just don't understand, what's the standard for black tie events, especially if they've never been to something like that, So he don't know. He's like,
Then be humble enough to ask. If you don't know and it's an environment you're not familiar with, be humble enough to ask. And I think that goes back
Mhm,
again to character, because if you have the type of character in a person where they're a humble person, then, and I think in our society we kind of look down on that word, but I think that that's needed in a successful relationship. You
mhm,
have to have humility, because otherwise, if you don't have humility, you're never going to apologize for your mistakes. And I think we as a culture look down when somebody shows humility. We look at it as a sign of weakness, when it's strength. It takes a
mhm,
lot of strength to humble yourself and admit when you're wrong about something. And if you're not a humble person to say, hey, I'm not really comfortable being here, this is just who I am, then you're not somebody I want to be in my I would want in my life anyway. And I think that's
right.
when people start compromising their boundaries, and compromising their expectations and compromising what they're really looking for, and they end up in miserable marriages or
Mhm,
miserable relationships.
right, right,
I'm not doing that, especially at this point in my life. I'm not compromising, in
right.
that aspect.
And
If
let
you
me
want to
just,
do you want to be a sneakerhead, by all means.
right. Let me also put my email address
What are
out
you
there for
laughing
those. No, because you're right. So those, if you have any questions or you want a topic for us to cover in the future, my email address is craigpalmer25 at gmail.com. So by all means, send me any questions, concerns, topics that you'd like us to cover. And, we've covered topics in the past that were suggested by viewers. So I'll put it in the message thing, so that way you have it. If you have a question that you or you wanted some clarity regarding something, right? Um, or you just want to join Mrs. Duhart's roster,
Shut
I'll
up.
forward it. Um, I'll let her know. See if she has a roster spot available for you.
I cannot with you right now. But no, but seriously, I think that this is a really good topic because I think sometimes it's so easy to get discouraged with online dating because
Hmm.
when you sign up for a particular app, right, they have all of these
Hmm.
success stories. And so you're expecting, oh, I'm going to get a marriage out of this. And so if you have not found that, number one, you might feel discouraged. But I think if you go in with the perspective of, if I make a friend, if I meet someone nice, if I have a good date, if I had a good night with the person, to me that's a success. That's a successful app. If you're finding men that you enjoy being around or finding women that you enjoy being around, that's a successful app. That's a successful, website. That's a successful meetup. If we had a good encounter, I think that that's successful, even if it didn't lead to
Hmm.
you being my exclusive. But I have had some really great exclusive relationships out of online
Hmm.
dating. And honestly, right now, Hinge is my number one app that I've used where I found, some really good, some
I
quality
love her.
guys.
I ain't gonna
And
lie to
Ashley
you.
Madison, I know a lot of people feel some type of way about Ashley Madison, but
Ashley Madison, isn't
but
that
I
like
like
the
Ashley
hookup
Madison and
one?
I like Hinge.
Ashley Madison, ain't that the one for like the hookup, really?
Shut up. That's what
I'm just
it
saying.
used to be. It used to be for marriage partners that were looking for hookups while they
Mm.
were married, but that's not all it is. I like Ashley Madison because
Mm-hmm.
you find people who have been married before. And I think unless you've been
Mm-hmm.
married before, there's a dynamic that you just don't understand. So I will never date a man who's never been married before. I just
Okay.
because you don't know, in my perspective, you don't know how to be a husband yet. Whereas I've been a wife the majority of my life and I don't have time to catch you up. So I would prefer to be with someone who's been in a relationship before.
That's interesting. I must admit, because I've never thought about it, getting with someone who's necessarily been married before. Although I think that dealing with someone who has been married before might be a good thing to do because, like you said, not only do they know
Hmm.
what it takes to be a good wife, right, and a good
Hmm.
partner, although you might have to ask yourself, well, why they not married anymore? So, were they a bad partner when they were married? Like, how do you know? Like, just because the person was married before
That's
doesn't
not
mean it's good,
necessarily, no.
right?
Right, exactly. It doesn't mean that they're a bad person. You could have just been incompatible. You could have just been a bad
Mm-hmm.
match. Like my first husband, I still love him to death. I still think he's a great person. We were high school sweethearts, but I would never
Mm-hmm.
marry him again. I think he's a great guy. He's a great father. He's still a great father,
Mm-hmm.
great grandfather, to our grandchildren. But I would never marry him. Good luck to his wife. But
Mm-hmm.
I just can't be in a relationship with him. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't, yeah, I don't think that it's anything wrong with, staying.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I kind of think that.
But I will say this though.
Mhm.
I was going to say, how if you date a woman who's never had children, so she doesn't
Mhm.
understand, oh, your sons have basketball practice. Oh,
Mhm.
you make your children a priority. A person
Mhm.
without children is not going to understand that at
Right.
all. They're going to feel like you're putting your children first.
Right.
Where yes, my children should be first in this aspect. Absolutely. My children are going to come first. And if
Mhm.
they've never had children, they're not going to understand that. So I look at it as the same
Right.
way as if a person has been married before. They understand the dynamics that go. Like if I'm leaving, to check on me. to make sure, hey, are you good? Has
Mhm.
anything happened? Make sure, like, for instance, my fiance now that I'm dating, he knew I was going on a road trip, and he was like, well, let me make sure you have an oil change. Let me make sure you've got, air in your tires.
Mhm.
Let me do this. Let me do it. Whereas another guy I was dating, he never did that before when I told him, because I'm always on the road, So it's little things like that a husband would know how to do that a single man might not necessarily know or think to do.
Well, let's be clear. I mean, as a husband, you know these things, but I don't know if I would necessarily do that to someone I'm dating. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you and I are dating, you say you're going on a
Why
road
not?
trip, I'm checking your oil and all that kind of stuff. I mean, you should be doing that on your own, right?
Why not?
Now, if you were my
No.
wife, if
Now,
you were
didn't
my
you
wife, then
say you
yeah.
look for things to for a person? No, see, you're funny because you said that you look for women to separate themselves out of the pack to kind of take that lead. As a
Mm-hmm.
woman, we look at that stuff too. And it's not necessarily the material things, it's the protective aspects, it's the security, it's the
Mm-hmm.
provider. So if I see you're a provider, you're a protector, you're making me feel secure, oh,
Mm-hmm.
hands down, you're going straight to the front of the list. You're
Right.
definitely potential.
Exactly.
You're
That's what I'm saying.
definitely
That's how
marriage
I knew
material.
homeboy knew. He was like, listen, I take these kids to school, I'm in. He was like, yo, because ain't no guy taking another woman's kids to
But
school.
little
In
thing,
fact, did I tell you about the comedian? Right? Did I tell you about
why
the
not?
comedian? The comedian, he had a joke
No,
last week. I forget the guy's
no.
name. He says he says he don't like to go to clubs because there's too many um single mothers at clubs, right? And so he said he went to the club and there was a single mother there, and he went on 2 dates, and after 2 dates he got a call from the school to pick up her son. Right, and he's like, yo, I can't pick up your son. I've only seen him twice, and that was in the dark. That was at your house. Right? So
Oh
I
my
mean,
God, that's
he was
horrible.
hilarious. So a guy knows he's
No,
good.
that, you know what? That's actually really funny though. That's funny because when I was dating, so this is the second time I've dated my fiance. So when we were dating
Mhm,
before, it was he knew about me being a widow, and
mhm,
every now and then little stuff would come up that would kind of trigger me. So when
mhm,
I was enrolling my kids, in school, they were transitioning from elementary to middle. I was like,
mhm,
oh my God, I don't have an emergency contact anymore, and I was just boohoo crying. And he was like, well, why don't you just put me down? And I thought that that
mhm,
was an amazing gesture, and even after we broke
mhm,
up, he was still really close to my kids. He would still call them, he would still
mhm.
text me and check on the kids. And then, that's what made us get back together. But I mean, if
Right.
there's a conversation, I wouldn't have a problem with that. But if she just, enrolled him as, an emergency
Yeah.
contact,
It was like,
that's a little strange. I
yeah,
would
yeah,
be a
that
little
was
scared and
hilarious.
skeptical of this woman.
Yeah, I mean, listen,
Yeah, that's
and I get
craziness.
it.
I would
And,
definitely run away from her.
and next week, I think we would definitely talk about, women who are dating intentionally because, I see that so often, where, and I have this debate, and I mean, you tell me if I'm wrong. I have this debate with this young lady, one of my son's friends' mother. She claims that women don't want to get married no more, and every profile I see online, the woman wants to get married. So I don't understand, what is it? Do women want to get married or they don't want to get married? I'm assuming from what I've been told and what I see, women want to get married. But she seems to think women don't. She don't want to get married, which I believe is false. I think that's bull. But she constantly tells me, "Oh, professional women, they're not looking to get married." I don't believe her.
I've seen both sides of it though, if I'm being honest. Like I have a number of girlfriends who are very successful in their careers and they've never been married and they're in their 50s at this point and they're
Hmm.
not interested in being married. But then I've seen women who have been married and now are looking to get remarried. Or, I mean, I guess it just
Hmm.
depends on the person because then some people who've been married and they've been in horrible marriages and they're like, I'm never getting married again. So
Hmm.
I guess me, I love being married. Even if my first one was, we got divorced, I still feel as though it was successful.
Hmm.
My second husband, he died. I loved being married. And I
Hmm.
think that's why I got engaged quickly. Like we were only dating 2 months by the time I got engaged. Um, I think it just
Anyway,
depends on the person. If
y'all
I'm being
got
honest. Now I
engaged
will
after
say I'm
two
surprised at
months.
how many men
You
shut
said you got
up,
engaged
Mr.
after two
Palmer.
months. Wait a minute. You said you got engaged after 2 months?
Yes.
Well, explain to me
Yes.
exactly what you was putting in his drink. Like, is it crystal meth or what are you putting in his drink? Are you nuts? What? I
Can I
don't
tell
get
you?
it.
Can I tell you a secret?
Yes, please do.
Let me tell you a secret. Both of my first husbands, we were engaged in less than 2 months, and I was married to my first husband for 7 years. I was married to my second husband for 17 years. Every I have had, even since I have been a widow, I've had multiple men. Like if I met them on a first date, they're like, "Okay, I want you to shut down your website. I want like literally at the dinner table trying to get me to like shut down my dating apps because they're like, where have you been? You've been hiding somewhere. I don't want you dating anybody else." And I mean, for some of them, I felt like it was cat, but I mean, a lot of them were like dead serious, like dead eye serious. Um, I don't know. I'm
Like
just a
you
good
tell me,
wife.
you know how you always tell me where you finding these women, right? Please tell our viewers where the hell are you finding these guys? Because I mean, they want guys like that too. They want to get married in 2 months or getting proposed to in 2 months. What? My God! Like, I'm honestly, I
Again,
don't
it
think I.
comes down to what your level of success is and what you're looking for. I feel like so many women are looking for Mr. Perfect instead of looking for Mr. Potential, and I feel incompatibility. If you and I can have a great conversation and you are not crazy, then I mean, I do have very high expectations and high standards, don't get me wrong, but I'm also not like, oh, you need to have 10 figures. Oh, you've got to be living in this big house. Oh, I think too many people are looking at material things, whereas I look at character. I look at the character of a man. And if you are a
Mhm.
real man, then you stay in my life.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. I've never seen her show in its entirety. But have you seen Kendra G? Have you ever seen Kendra G?
I think I saw a couple clips of it online.
Okay. So
Yeah, I've seen
I see her
clips.
clips on
Hmm.
like Instagram every so often. And I gotta tell you, these women on there,
Hmm.
when I tell you they have some of the most unrealistic expectations. Like when I hear some of these
Unrealistic
like
expectations.
these chicks
Yep.
are never gonna get married. Like if they're looking to settle down, it is never gonna happen. Because, the women that
Never
comes
gonna
on there and
happen.
they're
Yep.
like, they want a dude making $100,000 a year, right? Yo, you know
Hmm.
how hard it is for a guy to make $100,000 a year? I'm talking about we ain't an athlete, you ain't a doctor, you ain't a plastic surgeon, you ain't a astrophysicist, you know what I'm saying? Like just an
Hmm.
average dude, right?
Hmm.
It is like it's only 8%
Hmm.
of the black male population making
Hmm.
$100,000 a year. When I worked at Verizon, I made $100,000 a year, right? And I
Hmm.
could just tell you, most of the women in the
Hmm.
office was making $100,000 a year, and I'm pretty
Hmm.
sure most of the women that I worked with were making more than the guys that they were dating, right? It is so. I mean, they would have
Hmm.
these women have some really unrealistic expectations. Like, yo, I mean, if you get a guy
Unrealistic
making,
expectations. Yep.
let's say between 60 and 75, yo, you in good company, right? Like because
Hmm.
a guy, who's been with a company for a while, especially if he lives in the South,
Hmm.
right? Now, if you live in New York, that's something
Hmm.
different. New York, California,
Hmm.
Chicago, maybe Boston, maybe Miami. Like there's
Hmm.
certain cities
Hmm.
that Connecticut, right? Because Connecticut has the most, used to have the most millionaires per capita in the U.S. I think it's New York now.
Hmm.
But anyway, if you live in certain cities, then you
Hmm.
might meet a bunch of guys that make 100,000 because the cost of living is so high in New York. You're gonna meet guys that make that type of money.
Hmm.
But I'm just saying, if you live in the South,
Hmm.
you live in places like Macon, Georgia, or
Hmm.
Greenville, South Carolina, or Augusta, Georgia. Understand it's you'd be far fetched to meet a dude making $100,000 a year. It ain't happening.
And I think that's the problem too with women, and not to throw my ladies under the bus, but I think a lot of people misunderstand. You can make $100,000 and still live like you have 10, or you can make $100,000 and still live like you're broke. I don't look at how much money a man makes. I look at how good he is with money. Because I'll
Mm,
tell you, when I bought my first house, I was only making $19,000 a year, and my husband was making $35,000 at the time.
mhm,
I was 19, he was 24. He was making 35 right out of college. We bought our first house for $60,000 and then just kept flipping it. So we knew how to manage money, even though we were
right,
both combined making under $50,000 a year. We were young
right.
back then in the early 2000s. But I look at a person now. Hey, you could be making $100,000 a year and then you still live in this little ghetto ass apartment. So I'm
Right,
not,
right.
no, that would be a problem for me. But yet you driving this big old Benz or this Porsche, or then I
Mhm,
got a problem with that. If your car costs more than your house, you can't step to me at all. Like,
mhm.
just stay over there.
Well, I
So
mean, if
that
it
means that
costs
you don't
more than
understand
a house, you're
assets
probably
versus,
living in a trailer.
no.
So,
Well,
then
no, not in the listen. Right around these days, if your car payment is more than your rent, mm-mm.
so just a reminder for those folks, if you're interested in buying the Good, the Bad, and the Odd online dating book, these are some of the topics that we talk about from the book. I put my Cash App on the screen. It's Craig Palmer, money sign Craig Palmer. It's 15 bucks. If you send me 15 bucks, also enter in your address and I will mail it to you. Also, a reminder, if you want us to cover a particular topic, join us every Tuesday at 9 p.m. from 9 to 10, where we talk about the wide variety of topics online dating. Like, subscribe, follow us, share, all of that. Y'all know the deal, right? And so, once again, a great show. My host, don't tell her fiance she's got a roster. All right. So just keep it going. He don't watch the show, so he
Shut up,
don't
you.
know that you got a roster of like 5, 6 guys, stuff like that. No, just kidding. So,
Whatever. I told you he made me get rid of my roster. Oh, trust me, he knows.
also,
You're
definitely the email
hysterical.
address if you're interested in a topic you want us to cover or you have a comment, if you're not able to watch on YouTube, Craig Palmer 25 at gmail.com. By all means, it's a pleasure as always. Stay safe out there, be smart, and we'll be back next Tuesday at 9 p.m. When we discuss, all the ins and outs, the good, the bad, the odd of online dating. So have a great night. Thank you very much, Ms. Duhart. I will talk to you later. All right. And everyone joining us on
Good
TikTok,
night.
join us every Tuesday at 9. You're going to see clips from the show on TikTok tomorrow. So thank you for joining us. And if you have any comments, questions, concerns, inbox me on TikTok and I'll bring them on the show. Have a good